Welcome to a new update. In this update we're going to have an overall look on the altcoin markets. As the markets have been volatile during the week, Bitcoin has been correcting substantially. All has to be done with the news that we had about the ETFs. So we're going to discuss where the altcoins are standing at this point, whether they are interesting to have in your portfolio, whether you should be buying them, and just have an overview on them. But before we continue, make sure to hit the like button, which you can find beneath, subscribe to this YouTube channel, and thank you for our partner Bitvavo to be in this video where you can trade your altcoins safely on a very easy to use broker. They have a lot of altcoins in there, and I think the time to purchase your altcoins is still right now. And you might be feeling me, or you might be thinking that I'm a little bit boring at this point, in the sense that I'm still saying stuff that Chainlink is looking good at this stage. Well, as a matter of fact, Chainlink is still $6, so it didn't change at all with the entire thesis on it. Although what has shifted is that people are expecting Chainlink to fall to $2. Could be, but we have been witnessing a very manipulated move this week, I would say, or at least that's what I see on social media. What I think it is that we're just still range bound, and I think Bitcoin could be pasting what we have been witnessing in 2015 and 2019, and we are on the edge of having a substantial reversal on the Bitcoin markets, and that's what we're going to discuss first in this update, and then we're going to look at the entire markets of altcoins. Now, when we're looking at the charts, what we see here is the total market cap. So what can we derive from it is that we're acting beneath the 200-week EMA. We are still in a range-bound construction. What we can also see is that we have been rejecting against the previous high here at 1.11T, and that we are seeking for weakness overall. So if we look at the chart that we see right now, we can also derive that we've had a downwards trend, and this downwards trend has been shifted since the November crash took place. So we started to have momentum to the upside, and this momentum to the upside was capped by hitting 1.25T and making higher lows, higher highs, right? So right now we're still in the establishment of finding itself into a higher low. We have not been making a lower low, so we can still, that's the bull thesis here. But overall, we can also see that there are weaknesses across the Bitcoin markets and across the dollar markets, which have had an impact yesterday too. When we're looking at the Bitcoin price action, we can see that we are currently at the 200-week EMA. So pretty much the same view, in which we've got this downwards trend, and that downwards trend has shifted towards an upwards trend, as we have been establishing a new low here in November. Since then, price has been making a new higher high, price has been making higher lows, higher highs all the way. We've had a sweep of the high here at 31K, so we could conclude that we're currently in the process of creating ourselves into a range-bound construction, which means that we are having a range-bound construction in which we're just going to chop sideways. And the fact that I'm using it as a range-bound construction is because we've also been witnessing the same here prior to the breakout in January. So in that case, we had a rally, we failed to actually break through the resistance, and we started to continue going sideways. Pretty much the same view. And also we've had the dump which took place in the same week in 2015, but it seems very comparable in terms of price action, as we can see the exact same resistance zone, which has been used as support in the previous cycle, is currently acting as resistance. So overall, it's not that bad yet, but it could be bad if we start to lose the 200-week EMA, and then we can start to fall. And we've just witnessed some news regarding the ETFs being delayed, which was already expected, so nothing special there, but the price has been making a volatile move based from that news event. Now, what is important here is that we're looking at a case where the yields are reversing. So we've got a monthly candle here, which potentially is creating ourselves a bearish divergence. The fact is that the two years is also showing a massive weekly bearish divergence here, and is on the edge to start falling downwards in the coming weeks. When did we see that before? We did see it before in the top of November 2022 when we started to have a downwards turn for a little bit. When we had the second case in February of 2023 where we started to have a massive fall downwards. What does that mean for Bitcoin? Well, if we go into history, November was the period where Bitcoin bottomed out, and February and March were the periods where Bitcoin started to break out because of the concerns of weakness in the markets, as we can see. So if this is going to be a U-turn for the yields, I think overall with the fact that the unemployment rate is 3.8% while expected was 3.5%, the labor markets are showing terrible data, but on the other hand we do have PCE which comes in as expected, so inflation is sticky. The forecast for another rate hike starts to go down. That's why you also see the yield starting to fall. That's why you also see the fact that gold and silver are relatively strong and that the dollar doesn't continue the momentum yet. In that way, we're looking at a case of Bitcoin to sustain here. However, when we're looking at Bitcoin, we can see that we've witnessed a pretty heavy crash, or at least a volatile move, through which we are back into the entire area of support. Most likely that's going to sustain the support. I think if we lose this entire level here, we're going to see us into a territory of large trouble. So then I'm going to look at 20k next. But in this entire area is the area where you want to see Bitcoin sustain as support. So we've witnessed this high move and we've witnessed a substantial correction out of it. The most likely chance that we're going to get here is that we're going to chop around, perhaps even have a test of the range low, and then we continue to move. So in this case, we are seeing that we had this volatile move, resistance found, lower high started to fall and smack through, took the lows here, so the chop continues. If we have a test of the resistance here again, it is very likely that we start to have this fall, and this entire area is where I want to start buying. So we've witnessed this correction on the markets, but what did happen in the meantime with the altcoins? The altcoins have been going up slightly. So what we see here, and I'm going to discuss a few of them, is that we are having a sideways action on the altcoins against Bitcoin, or at least we bounced back up, and Ether against Bitcoin doesn't look like it wants to continue falling. As a matter of fact, it actually starts to look like a case where you can sustain the position and start to crawl back up in the coming periods. As if we look at the cycles again, in the previous cycle we bottomed out in September of 2019 as well. In 2015 we've also bottomed out, and then we started to rally substantially in September and October. So the chances are that in September and October we're actually not going to have such a big fall in the market, perhaps slightly lower, and then the altcoins start to surge. The same conclusion can be drawn from Chainlink against Bitcoin. It is also bouncing up. So altcoins are acting stronger, and they do the exact same as what we have been witnessing in the previous cycles, in which we were discussing or focusing on when our altcoins started to show strength. Right now might be the time, which is the same time as we have been witnessing in the previous cycles, which is approximately 10 months prior to the halving. Again, the Bitcoin dominance have been hitting the 200-week EMA, and again it's resulting into a case where it starts to fall. So the chances are that we continue to have that fall, but the question is what Bitcoin is going to do in terms of price action. Most likely we sweep 25k, so if we want to get ourselves positioned into altcoins, I think if we have that sweep, it is definitely where you want to take the long entries. But if we're going to have a case where Bitcoin is going to reclaim 26.7, that's also a level where you want to start looking for positions. Overall with altcoins, I think I've been mentioning this before, but altcoins are into a stage of accumulation. All across the board, I see charts of Chainlink going to $2, but also people expecting altcoins to fall another 80%. No, we're at the last stage of the cycle. There is also a case of a potential recession, but the recession has also been a case in 2015 and 2016 and was avoided. Even if we have a slight recession, everything is still okay. If we have a depression, that's different. But I don't think that we are going to have it right now. overall it's all rumors. Just like in 2022, we had rumors that we are facing the crisis already, and we reversed back up in this year with these tech stocks. It's all sentiment-based information, and I think if you look at the charts, it is still great to start accumulating your positions. Make sure to do that. I'll be back Tuesday with a new update on Bitcoin. Have a wonderful day. Ciao.